Hello there. Welcome back to another roster review, SPL Season 8. Roster reviews. We're getting there. Not many left to do. Well, in fact, I have 2 left to do. Hopefully I release these in the order. But this would be the 7th team, which is the Oni Warriors. You're talking SSG plus PK, basically. 3-3. Split them down the middle. You've got Nika in the solo lane, QvoFred in the jungle, Dardez in the mid lane, NeilMah in the support role, Vote in the ADC role, and ElChuckles in the coach role. Pretty cool roster, I think. So Nika, Dardez, and Vote obviously opting to stick together, losing their jungler and support to circumstances. We thought Raffer was retiring alongside Cherry, who was stepping back because he needed to move back to Egypt. Raf ended up back in the league. But Nika, Dardez, and Vote opting to stick together as a trio. They get a pretty darn good deal with this one, in my opinion. NeilMah and QvoFred coming in, and Chuckles as well. Neil and Chuckles winning the last 2 world championships. Fred, just the one. It's still not too bad, is it? Picking up the team that just stormed home with an amazing SWC victory to replace your leaving members. Let's talk about it in terms of team dynamic and why I think these are some good replacements for what the Oni Warriors lost in Raffer and Cherio. So, and I guess Josh, worth noting that Joshy was the coach for SSG, no longer the coach. I have no idea what Josh did. Josh, fantastic player. Good guy as well. I like him. Good pal of mine. But yeah, again, hard to say what any coach is actually doing, as I say in almost every one of these videos. Sometimes I just wing it and tell you guys about a coach which I know nothing about. But yeah, there's that disclaimer once again. So I think losing Cherry, in my opinion, I think I talked about this briefly in the 8 rosters in 8 minutes video, but he kind of carried SSG from I said before, outside the server perspective, in my opinion. Nika, Dardez, and Vote, I don't think any of them work that hard on building comps and analyzing opponents and deciding how to draft. At least this is my perspective from teaming with Nika and Dardez before, at least, and I have teamed with Vote and I know Vote, and that's just the way I feel. I could be totally wrong, so disclaimer there. I could be totally wrong, and maybe they've stepped up and they do a lot of that stuff, but that was the way it was before. These guys didn't strike me as the guys doing a lot of the research and the studying and analyzing the game. They just came in, they played, and they played very, very well. And that's what they'll continue to do. But I think they lost Cherry, who did a lot of the work for them in terms of analysis and thinking about the game and coming up with ideas and solving problems. I think bringing in Neil and Chuck, who strike me as the guys who did that on PK, is fantastic for them. I think Neil strikes me as very, very intelligent, and Chuck, in the videos we saw last year, I thought all of his comments about the games they won and lost were very astute. I think he I don't know, sometimes I feel like you can tell with the way somebody talks and the way somebody talks about the game, how they think about the game, I guess, and he strikes me as somebody who thinks about the game really well and knows how to solve problems within a team, and I think Neil's the same. I also think Neil will do a lot of calling for this team, which is fantastic. I think they need that. Again, Dardez, not the most talkative in the mid lane, I don't think. Doesn't really run games. He just wants to do his own thing and do it well, as I've said. And I don't know if Fred's going to be too communicative in the jungle. I don't know if he would really take control of the shot calling. I'm not certain on that. Never actually teamed with Fred. Even though we've both been, I guess I've not teamed with that many players, to be honest. I stuck with Obey for most of my career. But yeah, I think it's a really good pickup for them, getting Neil, Chuck, and Fred in to help out with this roster. Nika last year showed some real brilliance. I think he came into his own and was really considered like one of the top solo laners last year, and he earned it. I think he was on his way up the year before, and last year was kind of where he cemented his place up there, probably in most people's top 3 solo laners, top 4. Had a good year. I think it's the same for Nika, Dardez, and Vote, right? I don't think any of them had a bad year. I think Vote had a bad patch at one point, I guess, worth noting. There's a few people had bad patches last year, and Vote was definitely one of them. Him and Cyclone, I think, were playing bad at about the same time, if I remember right. Some time in phase 1. But Nika, Dardez, and Vote all pretty consistently performed together. Again, Nika and Dardez going down to reverse sweep at Worlds. Don't want to mention that, but unlucky. Sorry, guys. Going down to Neil and Fred again, actually. Well, not Neil and Fred again. Neil and Chuck again. Fred for the first time. So yeah, they had a good year. I feel like they did underperform at big events last year, is one thing you'd say. They didn't look fantastic up against Radiance in the playoffs, I think it was. And then they obviously went down to PK, not PK, what are they called, PK? They were called PK. They went down to PK, who they could have beaten. Obviously, they went 2-0 up once again and just weren't able to bring it home. But you can't, nobody beats PK 3 times in a row. As if we haven't learned that by now, then we all should have. So as long as this team, well, I mean, did they maintain? They did get 3 of the 6 members of PK on this team. So they do have the majority. So I wonder if that means they kept the ability to never lose a best of 5, basically, from that PK roster. We'll see. Maybe you'll never be able to beat these guys 3-0 either. Yeah, Dardez mid, gonna do Dardez things. You know what to expect from this guy. I think he's really highly regarded by the rest of the league, basically. I wouldn't be surprised if he had offers. I think Vote's almost in the same spot. I think all of these players on this team are highly regarded by the rest of the league. I don't think there's anybody here who is thought of as overrated or anything like that by their fellow pros. At least that's the impression I get. I think everybody thinks these guys are sick. And I think everybody is looking at this team as one to worry about if you're on another team, one to cheer for if you're one of the fans, and definitely one to keep your eye on if you're interested on who's going to be taking home events. I wonder how this team will come into the season. They do need to gel, I guess. It's a new core and a new duo lane. So I guess the people who work together the most, I mean, starting off the game, Neil and Vote are going to be working together a lot. They've not played together too much, as far as I'm aware. And then you've got the core of Qvo, Dardez, and Neil, who also haven't played together. Obviously, Neil and Qvo have for a year. But they're going to have to build up that synergy, which might lead to them having a bit of a slow start. Depends, I guess, pardon me, how much practice they get in beforehand and how well it gels naturally. But yeah, I expect them to be strong. I expect them to be a strong team for sure. I feel like Nika and Dardez, the last couple of years, they've just been knocking on that door, waiting. They really need to get in and go. I think they're hungry for a world championship is what I'd say. I think Vote's the same. Vote, obviously. I keep saying obviously. Sorry. Vote having finished second twice at Worlds with Team Rival before he switched out and moved on to new pastures. So I think it'll be a very hungry team alongside the 3 guys that have obviously won Worlds already. Yeah. I don't really have too much else to say on this team, do I? Neil and Chuck going to have to do a lot of the work analytically. I talked about it, I think, analytically, outside the server again. Cherio, I think, did a lot of the work before, and now Neil and Chuck are going to come in and do it for this team. Hopefully the playstyles mesh well together. Want to see more of Dardez on his interesting picks. I feel like we lost a bit of that towards the end of last season. I feel like maybe SSG last season, I think they got a little bit unfortunate with the balance of the gods in the mid lane for Dardez. I think, for example, Hera got nerfed that she didn't really need, when it was really only Dardez playing her, and then I think a couple other guys had started to pick her up, Ven, Hurry, come to mind, but she wasn't a top performing mage really. And then you have gods like Persephone, who Dardez didn't play, who dominated the meta for almost the entire year. So yeah, hopefully Dardez can get a little bit more lucky with God Pool next year. It might be something that he should specifically work on, though. I do wonder how much his what's the word I'm looking for? His eclectic God Pool, his sort of non-top meta pick style. I wonder how much of a detrimental effect that could have had on his team last year. Maybe if he just had a couple more of the really, you saw Big Man Tings and Paul, I think, were the best two mid laners at Worlds. They came out with the picks, the best God pools, I think. They had the gods that ended up having the highest impact at that event. And I wonder if Dardez could adjust his playstyle a little bit to have a few more of those really strong meta mid lane picks in his arsenal, have them available so that you don't end up in a situation like last year. I think it was Rafa as well, had some problems with God pools, and I think they ended up perm banning Umoja and Persephone for way too much of the season on both sides, which I think really hamstrung them. So that's something that Dardez could work on. This stuff just comes off the top of the dome sometimes, I've never really thought about that before, but I do think that SSG roster last year, a part of the reason they struggled was exactly that, Persephone and Umoja, and also a few balance changes that didn't suit them, and meta not suiting them. I think they were the best team when you had Khepri, Geb type stuff going on, but when you couldn't make that stuff work, I think they didn't gel nearly as well. So yeah, that's it. The Oni Warriors. Excited to watch this team. I worth noting that I really like this team. I don't know. I really like this team. I love the way it's come together. I think it's just, I don't know. It ticks a box for me. That's for sure. It ticks all the boxes for me. I think it's got the pop off potential. It's got the selflessness from certain players. It's got, the stars. It's got, I think they'll have fun together. I really do have high hopes for this team. That's going to be it from me. Another roster review, breakdown, whatever I call these things. Leave a like. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And check out the other videos. That's it. I'll see you next time. Bye.